Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's live learning. I'll go ahead and wait a second here for everybody to get in here and get situated. Make sure I can see things working on my other screens. Where we got folks joining with us today. Post in the chat. Let me know where you're joining from. Get excited, kicking this off. We're live learning about Trello. Some community-led learning about Trello. We're going to be talking today about getting started with Trello for personal productivity. I've done a workshop like this before and got a lot of feedback that it was really helpful, so I'm going to do another one. I'm super excited to be hosting this and doing this and nerding out about Trello with my fine friends over here. So yeah, I see we've got some folks here. Don't be shy. Feel free to post in the chat. Let me know where you're coming from or something you're excited about learning today. Or actually, I know how to get people in the chat. Trello or Jira? I'll just sit here and wait. Everything's just gonna blow up and combust whenever I ask that question. I've actually been starting to work on a lot more content about that lately because I don't think it's a Trello versus Jira type of discussion. I think both tools are great for different things, and there are reasons you may use both. It's kind of like the idea of should I get a hammer or a screwdriver? I mean, depends what you're building, but you probably do well to have both in your toolbox. Hello. Oh, from London. I really want to go to London. Alpharetta, Georgia. Nice. Very cool. More London here. Hamburg. Ooh. Nice. Yes, both. Thank you. Both is the right answer. I know there's a bit of delay, I think, in me talking in the chat coming through. So, yeah, awesome. Love to see everybody hopping in here. This is great. I'm really excited. Basically, for the next little bit, we are going to talk about one of my favorite tools that I have learned to do so many amazing things with. I'm going to show you what's so cool about it. So, oh, hey, Sean, how's it going? And hey, Liz. Yes. We've got some of the crew in here. So if you know Trello already, you're still going to learn something. All right. So don't feel like I already know Trello. Why do I need to stick around? We're going to talk about some things that I bet you're going to pick up something new, even if you've been using Trello every day for your life. However, if on the other hand, you're like, wait a minute, I don't know anything about Trello. Should I even be here? Yes, you should, because I'm going to bring you up to speed. You're going to see why folks like me are obsessed with Trello, why we like loving it. And you're going to want to get started with it yourself. And even better, this isn't like some weird webinar or live stream where Brit's just randomly talking at you and you're just kind of passively listening. I mean, you can if you want, but you can actually get hands-on and get your fingers to the keyboard here and build stuff with me, because I'm going to explain some things and then kind of almost workshop classy style say, here's what you can do. And if you want to follow along and do those things, awesome. If you get stuck, I'm here to help. And yeah, we're going to have a blast together. So Trello pre-Celsius, Jira post-Celsius. Yes, Liz and I have a breakfast of champions of Celsius and Sour Patch Kids, I think, right, Liz? Is that what it is? I've actually got just some normal coffee today, like iced white chocolate mocha, so maybe not Celsius, but I don't know. Trello gives me the energy. Assad says, Jira for technical code-related work, Trello for management, coordination, task management. I think that's a good way to think of it, too. I definitely... Yeah, I actually just recently created some content around this. I'm actually going to share a link to the video in case anybody's interested, about Trello and Jira and basically trying to choose between the two. And one of the things that I actually do mention in there is you do tend to find a lot of developers will use Jira for, managing their features and bugs and things like that. And then you also tend to find other people preferring something like Trello. And that's why I think it's totally great to use both. But I also think at the end of the day, my secret answer is if you're already using one and you love it, I don't think you need to change. If, however, you're wondering if maybe there's an opportunity to change something because it's not working for this or that, or you're trying to figure out, this doesn't work great for this reason, that's an opportunity to kind of look and go through the two tools and see what the differences are. But check out the link. I just put it in the description here with a link to a video that I actually made recently about Trello or Jira. And the answer ends up being Trello and Jira, of course. But yeah, I walk you through my framework. I have like 5 different questions that I like to ask when I'm trying to figure out if someone is suited for one or the other. So happy to share that with you. But today we are not just talking about Jira. Actually, we're not really planning to talk too much about Jira at all. We are talking about Trello. So I am going to, again, kind of walk you through some slides, but I've also got a lovely demo board up here where we're going to get our hands on. We're going to actually like work through and do some things. So if you're sitting here and you're like, wait a minute, I want to actually see some hands-on stuff. You will. We're not just going to be a bunch of boring slides, but I do find sometimes slides help with setting the energy here and making things clear and kind of setting the stage for everyone. So we're going to start first of all with hello. Who is this girl talking to you and maybe late hours of your day, early hours of your day? How does she have so much energy? All of these are great questions. My name is Brittany Joyner. I am obsessed with Trello. I've been using it for well over a decade. I think last time we looked at like my first date with it was like 2011 or something like that. So I've been using it for a while. I've also been using other Atlassian tools, not nearly as long, but a little bit with Jira and Confluence and Loom now as well. So yeah, I got a little bit of the stack going here, but I'm really obsessed with Trello. I discovered it when I was working at a marketing agency while I was in university, and it completely changed some of the workflows for things we were doing with our clients. And I was like, this is really cool. And then I kind of tucked that away. And when I went back to school, I was like, wait a minute, I have a lot of other things that I need to organize here. And even after I graduated, I was like, okay, wait a minute, I've got a full-time job. I'm doing a side project. I want to try to, work on some fitness goals. How do I keep track of all of these things? And I remembered that super special tool that I had found that helped us keep things on track with our clients. And I was like, maybe it could work for me too. And spoiler alert, fast forward now, it did. It did a lot of things for me. I was able to share that with others and still do. And I am an active Atlassian community member. So I'm answering questions if you go to community.com, which by the way, if anybody here hasn't already, you totally should. There's sections based on different products. I spend most of my time in the Trello section, but you'll see that you can post questions. You can say, hey, I need help with something, or you can say, hey, I discovered this cool use case where I do this thing. And it's a totally great place to nerd out with other people who have those same interests that we do. So I'm pretty active over there, or at least I try to be. I host events like this for Atlassian, and we also have our own Trello Atlassian community chapter called the Trello Trailblazers. I'll actually put a link in the comments to that as well. But it's a whole club of events like this where we do all sorts of things Trello, and we talk about how to do things. We talk about power-ups. We've done some episodes where we have people showing different use cases and things they do. So I'll go ahead and drop a link to that, and make sure to sign up for that if you have not already, because it is a great way to continue nerding out with me about Trello. So enough about me. Let's talk about this tool and why we're here. So first of all, what is Trello? I promise there's something for everybody here, no matter what level you're at. So let's get us all on the same page so we can, really start with this shared knowledge. So I like to describe Trello as a digital whiteboard with supercharged sticky notes. And what does that mean? Do you like organizing information? I assume you do, because that's probably why you're here at a seminar about productivity. If you like to sort your information, maybe you have different tasks that you have, or you have different contacts or different things that you need to group, and there's a digital whiteboard that you can put up on your wall, but you can access when you're at the grocery store, or when you're at your office, or on vacation, or whatever. And I'm saying vacation because don't even just think of this in a work context, right? There's other things that you may want to access a whiteboard and be able to sort items by. So you may want to be able to see what do I need to work on around the house this week, or what kind of things do we want to do on our vacation to Italy, which is something I just did last week. And so imagine this concept of a whiteboard with all of these sticky notes that you can kind of move around into different groups and sort and assign, but also being able to access that from anywhere. And that's exactly what Trello is. Oh, did I freeze? Woohoo. It looks like I may have frozen. Yay, Wi-Fi. Hang on one second. Let me check and see what we've got going on here. Maybe I have not frozen? Nope. Okay. I'm going to turn that back on. Okay. Let's see. Have I frozen? Yep. Excellent. Am I all good? Okay. What I Woohoo. Okay. Okay, I think I'm back. I see my screen here. I see the chat. Okay. All right, I'm moving here now. I can see you but not hear you. Ooh, okay. Can you I feel like a Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now? Let me check. I'm going to video, audio. Oh, okay. Interesting. Restream is kind of locking up on me. Now I got vid and audio. Okay, perfect. Okay. All right. So we're all good to go. We're back in action. I switched over to a hotspot. Yay, living in the modern age. Okay, so let's get back to what we were talking about here with the supercharged sticky notes. Before I belabor the point too much longer, this is our digital whiteboard, right? And we can drag things around, we can move them, sort them wherever we want. But these sticky notes are not just these static little pieces of paper. Like inside of these sticky notes, there's so many features. I'm going to talk more about them, but that's why I like to call them supercharged sticky notes, is because there's so much more you can do with them. And you can add labels, you can add members, you can do all sorts of things to make them have more information that shows exactly what you need to do and help you action on things that are the most important. You can keep files and things related to each other. So imagine that sticky note, but it's not just let's try it now. Okay, we're using the headphones, not my microphone. My goodness, we're really going through it today, folks. Going through all of our technical issues here. We're just getting them all out of the way. My goodness. Okay, hopefully we are all set to go and things are actually working here. This is how you know this is live. This is not something I recorded ahead of time. This is not, something in the background. This is real. This is happening. Um, Better now. Okay, yeah. I was gonna say we're using my headphones now, so it's not gonna be fantastic because it's not as good as my microphone. I don't know. Restream's having some issues today, and it's a little concerning here. But we're gonna, the show must go on, right? That's how it works. So, all right. So, talking through these use cases, you've got your standard sort of Kanban where a project that you're working on. Maybe you've got one board for a specific project where you're saying, here's all of the different items and tasks that I need to do with that. And maybe you also need to need to keep track of multiple projects. So maybe you have multiple in one board, maybe you have separate boards. Another thing people like to use Trello for is ticketing. So this is, if you think of any sort of like request-based system, whether it's someone's requesting ads from you or someone is, getting help and support. So for instance, maybe someone is asking for IT help or things like that. You need to respond to it and address it and move on. Kind of matches with Kanban because they kind of go through that similar sort of flow together. But it's like a ticketing experience where each card is like some sort of issue that someone needs help with there. And then another use case is event planning, right? A lot of people will use this for planning in-person or virtual events. You could do it for either one, right? You could you could plan in-person events, whether it's something personal like a wedding, or maybe something smaller scale like a happy hour for work or something like that. You could also plan virtual events. I actually use Trello to plan a lot of these different types of events that I do, and especially the ones that I do with Trello Trailblazers. We have our own whole process where we organize what we need to do for planning those events, coordinating with partners, getting the content ready, promotion, etc. So those are just a couple use cases for Trello. Hopefully, kind of gets your ideas spinning a little bit about the different things you may want to do in there. But now I'm going to take some time and actually kind of show you through some of my different boards so you can get a little bit more inspiration about what we've got going on here. So first of all, let me show you this one's my favorite. I've actually got a workshop I'm doing with some people about this one next week. This is my meal planning remake, okay? It's called remake because it used to be old and boring, and now it's like really exciting. This is how my house keeps track of what we're eating this week. And so what happens is every card on here is a meal. And when you go into a card, you will see there are ingredients for those things. And inside of those, there might be other instructions too. Like in some cases, I've got pictures, but they look like a checklist with ingredients. And we drag things around when we're planning for meals. So, oh no, is it frozen again, Catherine? It looks like it's moving on my end, so I'm hoping it is moving. But yeah, I've got another version of this that I have done before that is a little less buggy that I'm going to put in the chat just in case anybody's like really struggling with this. I'll go ahead and put this in previous version of this. Content is going to be a little bit different because, like I said, this is actually live, but it's the same sort of principle. So hopefully if this audio, this recording, or this live is not working for you, feel free to go visit one of those and the content should be pretty similar. So, okay, cool. Meanwhile, I'm going to keep going, but let me know if anybody else was having trouble here. So back to the meal planning board, we basically drag cards over here for each one when, something is on deck. So I'm actually trying out a new meal this week, quick chicken dumplings. Here's my recipe. And when we drag it over, we can click to say approve meal. And when we click this button, I've created this with Trello automation. When we click this, it's going to create a shopping list of all of the different things that the different ingredients that are based on that. And so it actually builds my shopping list. I even have automation that will add specific labels like produce and meat and different things on there, so I can organize by what I need to get at the grocery store and sort out those different pieces, and makes it super easy. And then when I have actually made something, I can click, let's see, let me actually move one over here. When I've actually made something, this is live production data, so I don't want to mess with like our actual like week's meals here. I can just say I made it, and what it does is that automation will move it over to another list called recent, and it will just sit over there. So that way, when I'm going to pick meals, I don't make the same thing every week. So that's just kind of at a high level what's going on here. You don't have to have it as automated as this. You totally can. But at a very simple level, it's a great way to keep track of here's the different meals in my recipe box, what I'm making when, and how that would work. So that's one board. I also like my chore chart board. This is another one I use around the home. And of course, I'm not belaboring too much about Trello for work, because I think we all understand, oh, like at work, I might be planning an event or planning a project, and here's how I might use that. And so really trying to inspire some more like personal productivity use cases here. So this is my chore chart. And basically what I do with this is how I can keep track of the different chores that I need to do at specific cadences. So there's some that I need to do weekly, there's some that I need to do every other week and monthly, etc. And I use custom fields to set the frequency, which is the number of days in between when they happen. And then I use automation. So let's say I did this, and when I've done the task, I can hit this reset button, and it's going to say log the current date as when it was last done. It's going to change the due date to be whatever the last done date is, aka today, plus that number of days, and then reset the due date and move it around. So that way I can always see what needs to be done, what has been done. It's time to give flea meds today, so I'm going to need to do that after this live stream. So it's a good way to keep track of those things. And the other things you could do is you could assign members to this. So I could say, these are chores my partner does, these are chores I do. And by literally adding myself to the card, it will then show up. So I could come to this board, and I could turn on a filter and say only show cards that are assigned to me, so I can see exactly what chores I need to do. So I find that really handy. Like I said, that's one of my kind of favorite boards. Another thing I like to do is organize information in Trello. So we talk a lot about taking action in terms of making meals, doing chores, projects, whatever. But sometimes you just need to organize and keep track of information. And so, for instance, I have these different categories for when I find things online that I want to buy. I move things in here and I just kind of sort them around. And that way it helps me stop impulse buying. So when I see something, I don't just immediately buy it. But I do take time periodically to come through here, and especially on like Cyber Monday or Black Friday, I like to come see if any of these things are on sale, or just when I'm feeling particularly spendy, I can, go grab something from here, and it's more intentional spending rather than just random sort of stuff. So I really like that board. And then I've also got my main board that I live out of here, and this is where I kind of keep track of all of my different high level sort of things that I'm working on for the year. And so I've got like categories of things and different goals relating to that. And then I've got specific cards that relate to those goals, right? So these are 3 things I want to work on this year. And then these are specific things like inside of that. So all of these cards kind of relate to each other. And I've got a lot of different automation that makes them all work very nicely. I use dash cards to keep track of how many cards fit specific criteria. So it's a great way to see, this started out with 95 cards, and you can see I've completed 135. So clearly I have added some impromptu ones in here, but I am making progress and getting through these. So it's a really great way to kind of action on them and be able to see what I need to do with that. So now that we've talked about that, let's go back to these kind of core components that you need to understand if you want to start building and making things with Trello. So we've talked about the boards, which are this sort of your digital whiteboard, right? And so let's go back to this meal planning board over here, or we'll go to this demo board here. This whole white space here, or blue space technically, this is your board. This is your concept. Usually a board represents a specific project, a specific area, something that you're trying to tackle here. So if you're following along and want to build, you could just have one for your general sort of tasks and to-dos. And so your board is kind of that group concept of that. The next component you need to know is the lists. And this is how you sort things within your board. So maybe think about the different categories or groups you might put some of those supercharged sticky notes in, right? If you're thinking about a task board, you've probably got a backlog of all of the different things that you want to do. Maybe when something is ready to be worked on, you're going to move it to do. As you're working on it, it's in doing. And when you complete it, it's done. By the way, let me show you a quick fun Easter egg. If you put a firework emoji in a specific list name, it could be any list name, but you put it over there. Whenever you drag a card into that, it's going to spray confetti across your screen. So can't guarantee that will improve your productivity, but it is really fun, so you should try it. So yeah, so that's the list concept of kind of sorting. It could be by status, it could be by category. Maybe you have different lists based on different areas in your life of to do. Maybe you have lists for home tasks, you have another list for work tasks, you have another list for pets, kids, things like that. So it's kind of up to you how you want to do that. The other component you need is these supercharged sticky notes inside of them, and that's where they have cards. And there's lots of different things you can do in these cards, right? You can assign members to them. So I can say, hey, this card is mine. You can also assign labels to them. So this is another way, if you're not categorizing by list, you can categorize by labels. So you could say this task relates to home and put that in there. And the other things you can do are add checklists. So maybe you want to add subtasks within that card. So you want to have something within there that it's, maybe this is a larger task, like write a blog post, but you want to add like come up with an idea or draft out the content, etc. You can do that in here. And the other things you can add are dates. So these are really helpful. And you can add a start and due date if it's something that spans multiple days, or you could just say, I want to do this on Thursday, and it will put that in there. You can add attachments. So this is really great if you have any files that you need to keep track of with this. For instance, let's say you're working on a blog post. Maybe you want to keep the thumbnail in there, or different Google Docs file or different things. You can paste and add those files in here. You can also add locations, and this is something that either you think is really cool and you can already imagine how you'd use it, or you never touch it and there's no in between. So I really like it with when I'm planning trips, because when I can add a location to a card, what that lets me do is use Trello's views, which I think we'll talk more about in a second, but to kind of plot those cards on a map. And so when I was going to Italy, this was really helpful to see what kind of activities were near each other. So I could say, okay, on these days, let's do this. And on these days, let's do that. So yeah, so if you're not doing anything with that, or like job deliveries or planning routes or things like that, you may not find that as useful, but for those who do want that, it is actually pretty cool. And then there's different things you can do to style your cards. You can add these covers, you can upload cover images, you can add stickers. That's another thing you can do to boards. That's more of a board level thing, but it's a fun way to style your cards here. So yeah, so that's all of the different sort of things that you can add to cards over here. And what's really cool about adding these different attributes is that you can filter your boards by them. So let's say I want to come here and I only want to see cards that are due in the next week. Maybe it makes more sense if I have hundreds of cards in here. But I can go to these filters and I can say, show me due in the next week. And it's going to just show me that card that's due in the next week, helping me focus on the ones that I need to, rather than worrying too much about what's all going on around here. So those are the core components. When you're ready to take Trello to the next level, you can add more things on top of that. And the more things are power-ups and automation. And I could do completely separate workshops about these things, because there's a lot that you can cover with power-ups and automation. But we'll start with power-ups real quick, giving you an overview. Power-ups are basically third-party add-ons that you can add to your boards that will give it improved functionality. In some cases, it's going to change the UI and make it look different or surface information for you. In other cases, it's just going to change the way something may look. It may actually automate some pieces for you and provide information. It could do a bunch of different things. So when you go to the power-ups, you can search for different things. Like, let's say you're looking for mirroring. You can type that in here and you'll see all of these different options for mirroring and what you want to do for those cards there. You can click on one and learn more about it. You can see how many people have installed it. Oftentimes there's a GIF. There's usually an email that you can reach out to if you have any questions. There's usually details about how much it costs, how that works. And yeah, and you can click add to go ahead and add that to your board and try it out. And the whole policy of what you do after you click add, that's kind of going to be a little bit different by each power up, but definitely feel free to explore those. The other aspect is automation. So if you go over here to automation, basically, if you think about any actions you're doing in your boards with moving cards around or assigning people, you can create rules and automation that will let you do that. And again, this is a bit of a more advanced concept, so I'm not going to go into too much detail of it here, but you can create rules for every Monday, create a new list, or every Monday, create a new card, and do some different aspects with that. So with all of that, we're going to do some little pop quizzy sort of stuff here, okay? I want to make sure we all are on the same page and understanding where we're at with Trello, where we're at with these core components and what we need to know with boards. The most important thing to know about these boards is that you can access them anywhere. You can use them on your phone. You can use them on desktop. They even work offline. So you can, add cards in there and then they'll sync back up when they're connected back to internet. They're typically used for a specific project. So there's like an idea, you wouldn't just have one board. You're likely going to have a couple different boards, but you might have a specific goal you're trying to accomplish with one board. 3, you can control who sees them. So you add different members to these boards. And so this is the way you can control, for instance, maybe you want a board with your partner for planning meals, but maybe you want a different board with your kids for planning chores. Boards are how you can kind of add different members to them. So that's how you can control who sees what. And the other important thing to know, there's a limit of 10 boards in a free workspace. So that is honestly more than plenty, depending on what you're trying to do. And if you need more than that, then Trello is definitely worth paying for. So we'll talk more about that later. But now I would like to show you all how to create a board. So if you're following along and you want to actually do it, let's go ahead and create our first board. Here's a GIF walking through how to do it. You're literally going to create a Trello account, and from Trello, you'll just go to any page. You'll be at the top here, and you'll click create and click create board and just give it a name. And you can call it community class October 15th. Call it whatever you want. You may have options for a workspace, or as you created an account, it'll prompt you to create a workspace, so you may only have one there. Your visibility will change. You can see it. You can just leave it to workspace, hit create, and boom, you're done. So I'm going to pause for 1 second and sip my coffee. If anybody wants to try that, let me know if you have any questions. How that's working out. I'll leave this GIF up in case it helps. I really should have played like some Jeopardy music. All right. I know there's a bit of a delay here, so I'm trying to be patient, but I will keep watching. If there are some questions or comments come through, let me know if you have any problems with creating a board or putting this together. But the next piece we're going to talk about is what you need to know about lists. So these are the columns or the sections of your boards. You could think of them as stages that you go through in your whatever your board's goal is. You could think of them as stages that they go through. You could think of them as categories of the types of tasks. Totally up to you. You can rename them. So don't feel like as soon as you create one, you have to stick with that for forever. You can sort cards in a list. So once you've got let's say we've got, another card in here, more cards. We can click these three dots at the top of the list to sort these cards by when they were created, when they are due, or their name. You can even sort by last activity. So if you want to be able to see, like, when I make sure you're seeing which ones have been active recently or which ones haven't. Or sorry, that's a custom field, but you can sort by those any custom fields that you have in the board. So let's just go ahead and click to sort that alphabetically. And you see now that it has shuffled and moved them around in that way. You can make automation that supports this, but also you can do that manually in what I just showed with those three dots. So that's what's helpful with the list. And there are also bulk actions. So inside of that same list menu, you'll see there's different actions for it. You can copy that list. So let's say you want another version of your backlog. You can literally copy that and have a whole other version that duplicates with all of those other cards. Let's say you don't want that anymore. Well, you can archive this list, and you can do other things like move that list to maybe another board entirely, or maybe you want to move it to another position within the board. You can change the list color. You can build some more automations here. You can archive all cards in the list. So maybe, for instance, after I go shopping, I like to archive all the cards in my shopping list, but I still want to keep my actual shopping list. So it'll keep the list, but just archive the cards within it. So that is what you need to know about lists. So now I'm going to put it back to you all here. Go ahead and create your first list. To do that, you're going to go in that board you made, and you should see some text like this where it says add a list. Just click that and give it a name. Press enter, and boom, you've got a list. You can make as many as you want. You can even drag them around. So let's say you're like, oh, I actually want that one here. If we do that, and if you're like, oh no, I'm gonna call it something else. Well, then call it something else. You can add emojis to it. That's kind of fun, kind of like I showed you with the done. Adding the fireworks in there will spray the confetti. So yeah, so that's making a list. All right, I'm getting serious now. You're not just making a list. I need you to make a couple lists, okay? We're making your board for your tasks. So I want you to take this board you've made. I want you to make a to-do, a done, and a doing list. And then I want you to drag the doing list in between them. So think about like the order of which you do it, right? You would queue something up to do, it would be in progress, you'd be doing it, and then it'd be done. So it's gonna look, I'm gonna archive all of these cards, or all of these lists. And I'm gonna build it with you, okay? Oh, I meant to archive the list. All right, so I'm gonna build a list called to do, done, doing. We're gonna drag it over. It's as simple as that. Let me know if you have any questions or need any help with that. We'll pause for a second. Do we still have folks? I know we've had some technical difficulties, so just making sure we've still got some folks around and I'm not talking to myself here. Alrighty. Wondering if my chat is over here. I think Restream is having a day. Let me go over here and make sure I'm not missing some chats. All right, I've got Liz. Liz is here. Okay, thank you, Liz. Thank you. Affirmative here. Okay, I'll take that. Perfect, perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our final component here about cards. So cards are the supercharged sticky notes. We've talked about the members, the labels, the dates, the different things you can add. I haven't really told you much about custom fields. So let's say you have a card and you're like, okay, that's cool. I can add all these things to it. But maybe I also want to add something else. Like maybe I want to be able to show planned date. Maybe, that's different than my due date. Maybe I want to make a planned to work on date. You can make a custom field, and it can be one of these types of options. It could be a checkbox, a date, drop down, number, text, whatever you want. they have different properties, as you can imagine they would, for instance, with primarily with automation, but the different formats they look like too. So a date field is going to look like a date. Text field is going to look like text. A drop down is going to look like, yeah, a drop down. Exactly. You got it. So basically, that's kind of the gist of that. Custom fields are a paid feature, and I'll go ahead and touch really quickly on Trello pricing. It's kind of confusing for a lot of folks. I've got some videos on it that help you kind of explain the concepts. But basically, for $5 a month, you can get those custom fields. You can also get unlimited boards. You can have more than 10, and you can have advanced checklists. So I didn't really show you this on the checklist, but let's say we've got an item here on the checklist, and I want to know who is doing that. Well, with advanced checklists, you can assign dates and people to that. And so again, think of this as like subtasks. It's a great way to kind of sort things underneath that and see who's on deck and what's all happening. So anybody has checklists. To add a person and a date to it, that is an advanced feature, and that is going to be part of the standard. Premium, you might be interested in premium if you're wanting to do some things with views. I think I may touch on that a little bit here in very briefly, but basically views are kind of like I showed you with map view, the different ways of kind of viewing these cards. You can also view them in a table. You can view them in a calendar format, and you can also view them in a timeline. And so that lets you basically kind of plot cards and create them from wherever you need to with whatever you're trying to do with them. Test card. So see, and then you can drag around here. So yeah, so if you're into that, that's awesome. But maybe you don't need that for the views. You're probably get along fine with just the standard plan. All right, so back from the pricing iteration here. We've talked about attaching files and locations, adding checklists to cards. One more thing you can do with cards is you can actually add comments and activities. So let's say I'm working on this with somebody and I need to get your feedback on something. I can tag other people in here and ask them, and it will ping them. And I can see a log of different things I've done. For instance, I can see when I've added things to it. I can see details about, someone was added to the card. I can see when labels were things. Different activity will populate based on different things that card is doing. If there are certain things that you really want to track, I prefer using automation to log comments to a card about things that are happening, but you can see this, you can show or hide details about when cards are moved around, when due dates are changed, when people are added. It's a good way of seeing what's all been actually happening to this card. So yeah. All right, so now it's your turn. Let's create some cards. Here is your task. I'd like you to create a card in the doing list and assign yourself, then add a label. All right. So let's do that one together. Let's maybe say, watch live stream about Trello. All right, now let's open that up. Let's add ourselves to it. Woo. Now let's add a label. Scott said, is there a way to show hours of the day in the view, i.e. to schedule time? Not yet, Scott. And I can't say too much about this, but let's just say Trello's thinking about this. And I'm going to get a link where I encourage you to sign up for a design session, and Trello may be able to show you some more things here. So let me get this link. And that goes for anyone. Trello's planning some really cool stuff. I can't say too much about it, but if you sign up for basically a feedback call with them, they'd love to show you and get your feedback on that. And so if you're curious about that, especially anything relating to time planning with Trello, definitely check that out. And I just posted that in the chat there. So, but yeah, at the moment, it's just purely by days, which can be kind of frustrating if you're trying to see things alongside of calendar or breaking things down by hours. I know, it's a bummer, but things with that are changing. That's all I'll try to be subtle and say for the moment. Okay, so yeah, so now we need to add a label to our card. You can literally just click a color of a label. If you want to add it into it, you can add it to yellow, or sorry, add the title
And then you could change the color if you wanted to, hit save, and you've got your labels. Let's create another card called Make a Board and drag it to the done list. Oh, yeah. Plenty way. So that's the other thing, Scott. There's different power-ups that can help fulfill different needs here, depending on what you're trying to do. Plenty way is a great one. I'll include a link to them over here. But yeah, they have a lot of different features that will let you kind of look at that and like integrate it with your calendars. So I will post a link to that in the chat there. But yeah, nothing native in Trello yet, and you'll need to kind of set up and pay for something like this independently, but it can totally be worth it. I actually use something independent of all of this called AkiFlow. It's not even really a power up, but what it lets me do is kind of combine my calendar with my tasks. And so rather than like planning for, you know, putting any tasks on my calendar, I can basically sort everything through and kind of visualize, okay, well, here's what's on my calendar for the day, but also on the side, I can see, okay, here's my different Trello cards of things that I'm doing now. So just so you know, that's kind of where I will spend some time on things. But yeah, power-ups definitely can scratch that itch. All right, let's create a card called Make a Board and drag it to the done list. Say make a board, drag it to done, and create another card with something you need to do next week and add a date to it. Ooh, let's think, something I need to do next week. Oh, pack up the camper or the truck for my camping trip. Let's add a date to it. And add a description to a card. Oh, I actually didn't talk too much about this, but you can use Markdown to format in there. So open up a card, and in this description section, it's kind of what it sounds like. You can use Markdown and these different like formatting here to make like a headline. So for instance, let's say I want heading things to remember to pack. And maybe I want a checklist, so I can add dash of this thing and then this thing. I could also use a checklist on the actual card, but yeah, depending on what you want to put here, there's different types of formatting and things you can do. You can style the text, do different things with that. So yeah. All right, let's see. Jill says, hi, completely new to Trello, added as a part of a team dashboard. Was wondering if there's a way to import an Excel list that currently is used as a tracking tool. Yes. So what I would recommend for that is there's a handy import CSV to Trello by Blue Cat. I love this power up. I've actually got a video about it. I'm going to post a link to it in the chat here. But this is a great way you can export your XLS file and you can basically import it directly to Trello. And so you can map and say, oh, these fields mean these things. And for each row, like this is what the different columns mean. And this is where I need you to go put them all in. So if you want them to all go to maybe like a specific list, then you can specify what that list name is and put it all in there. I think you get a certain number of these for free. So yeah, your first 10 imports are free. And then it costs each month if you plan to do it regularly. But it's probably going to be basically free for you. I assume you're migrating things into here, so it's a great use case for that. It's just more if you need something to do it like on a recurring basis, that's when you'll have to pay for it. So great question, Jill. Yeah. Other fun trick I'll show you, if you're just trying to, let's say you're just trying to copy like one specific sort of thing. Let's see, I'm trying to find a good example of one. Sure, let's do my book sales. Let's say you have a list you wanted to copy. You can copy all of those cards in that list, and then you can go to Trello and you can paste that in there. And when you hit enter, Trello will ask if you want to create 30 cards or just one card. And so it can make like all of the different cards based on what those are. So that could be helpful, but that's not going to help if like you want to map a bunch of other things that are in the row, which I assume is probably more what you want to do. And that's where I would probably end up using like a power up. But just throwing that out there in case that actually is helpful for you. So yeah. All right. So we are flying through here, I jumped ahead. I already told you all about board views. I like tables if you're missing your spreadsheets. Maps, again, it's great if you have an idea of what you'd use it for, but if you're like, I can't think of anything, then it's probably not for you, and don't worry about it. One other thing I will say with calendar, if you were on the fence about paying for Trello, you're like, I really like that calendar view though. Even though, Scott, it doesn't show me the hours. I really like that calendar view. There's actually a power up for just the calendar. So this doesn't work with the other views, but if you search for calendar, you can get a free power up to use that gives you your boards in calendar view. So don't feel like you have to upgrade if that was the only view you wanted. So just wanted to mention that. And then we already kind of touched on power ups, but I also made a Trello board, shocking, of some of my favorite power ups. And so I'll go ahead and paste the link to that in here so you all can take a look. But again, I can and do whole other workshops about these specific power ups because there are so many that do things and so many that cover like such a wide use case. There's some that are built by Trello where it's like Trello has made these, and so therefore you can kind of assume they work very closely with the product and work really well. Then there's some that I recommend for general use, and it's like no matter what you're doing, there's a good chance you will probably find use of these power ups. And then I have ones for situationally, right, where it's like not everybody's going to use these, but for the people who want them, they do. If you're managing contacts in Trello and you want a CRM, you're going to want to use Crumble. If you're handling emails in Trello, you'll want to use email for Trello. If you're handling budget stuff, I've really been enjoying colorful budgets. Used to be for the longest time, budgets and money was one thing that I just couldn't make work in Trello, and I have figured it out thanks to this lovely power up. So, and then there's a bunch of different ones for reporting, which is what a lot of people ask me about. So again, I could do entire workshops on any one of these power ups, let alone the whole categories of them. So I'm just touching on it super briefly to get you excited. But make sure I'll shout it out again to join the Trello Trailblazers Club, because we actually have been doing a series of episodes all about different power ups. We call them Mighty Morphin Power Up Rangers. And so you can see we've done our third episode. We're getting ready to plan our next one, but we talk about different power ups for helping with things for email and Trello, or we've done one before about calendars, and we've done ones about I think what our very first one was now. Yes, getting info in Trello. So with forms and things like that. So definitely make sure to join these, and you'll learn about a lot of different power ups and things that you can do there. So I mentioned power ups here. Let me just show you the general sort of process, just in case you do want to add one. Let's say we want to add the README power up. That lets you add like a pop-up that when people come to your board, it explains how your board works. So go to add power ups, search for README. Oop, README, there it is. Click add, and you'll see now you can start configuring the power ups. So this is how you use this board. Excuse me. Here is how. 1, do this. 2, do that. You can imagine how this would be more useful if you actually took time to fill it out. But you can put in whatever text you want here. You can say when this should appear. Maybe you only want it to appear to people who are not members coming to the board. If you have a public board, maybe you want it to happen the first time someone gets here. Maybe also whenever it's updated. Maybe you always want it. Maybe you want to really drill in people. So for the first week that you're introducing your boards to people, every time someone comes to the board, it's going to show something. And so now check this out. When I refresh this page and come to this board, I'm going to see this pop-up that shows me exactly how I'm meant to use this. And I can disable that and say, don't show this to me again. Because on the admin, I can click that pencil and change that. So yeah, so that's feel free to follow along if you want to see and add a power up. Just got a question. If I'm invited to join a board and I can change the background, does that background change for all or just my display? It changes for everyone. So that's another good question, Jill. Basically, there's the different board roles that you can think of is if you're part of a board, for the most part, you're thanks for joining, Scott. See you later. If you're part of a board, then you can do pretty much anything anybody else in the board can do. There are some specific admin things that you can do. So if you go and look at like some of these settings, there's different permissions that you can specify that, you know, only certain people should be able to do, whether it's like adding or removing people to boards or things like that. But if you change the background, it's going to change that for everyone. The thing about filters does not change it for everyone. So let's say you come here and you want to see only cards assigned to you. That does not change the view for everybody. So what you might actually notice, this is kind of a fun tip, check out this URL bar up here, okay? When I toggle on and off a filter. You see it changes? It's literally changing that URL path. So you could actually save this URL and I could say my cards. And so now, let's say I don't have this filter on, but I go to this link. It's going to apply that URL structure here. So I actually do have that filter. And so again, it's manipulating the URL, but that's not doing it for everybody. So you could also go to this board right now and have a filter showing only cards due this week, but that is just on your screen. That is not for everybody else. So hope that helps. But yeah, unfortunately, changing the board background does do that for everybody. All right, so we are coming to the end of the hour. Man, that went by super fast, even despite all of our technical difficulties. Thank you, everybody, by the way, for sticking with me. I recently got a new microphone, and clearly that didn't help things. I think Restream was having some different problems here. Seems like my camera's been going in and out too. So anyways, thank you, everybody, for your patience with all of this. I have no idea why today was the day of issues, but I really appreciate you staying with me through this, and hopefully the next one will be better. But yeah. Any questions? Any closing thoughts or anything at all? If you want to keep in touch with me, sign up for my Trello newsletter. I'll post a link to that in the chat. I post every Thursday morning. It's free. I send information about different things in Trello, how to do things, tips, best practices, use case ideas, and all sorts of stuff there. And there's a premium version that has some extra perks, like being able to get on calls with me, where we do workshops and things like this, where we also get a little bit more bonus content and things like that. But for the most part, you'll get a lot of value even out of the free part too. I also have a YouTube channel, so I create a lot of YouTube videos about these sort of things and very specific use cases and how to do things in Trello. So definitely check that out. And also feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm posting all of these links in the chat, but feel free to add me there. You're totally welcome to message me if you have any Trello questions. I can't promise I will answer immediately, but I do try to get to as many as I can. And then lastly, I kind of glossed over this at the beginning, but I actually wrote a book all about Trello. I just moved it to my other bookshelf over there, but I'll give you a link to that as well. If you go to trellobook.com, you'll learn more about it. You can buy it from Amazon or packed to different places, but I tried to take the most important things that I know about Trello and condense it into almost like a textbooky type of format, so anybody can get what they need from it. So just like this workshop, you're going to learn something if you've been using Trello for years, or if you're brand new to it, it's going to get you up to speed with what you need to know. So hopefully those resources are useful. But yeah, I am going to call it quits there and start trying to diagnose some of my my tech issues. So maybe next time goes a little smoother. But thank you everybody so much for joining. It's been great having you, and I